All right, what's up, everybody? It's Friday night, and it's a little stormy around here in Texas. Yep, we're screaming. So I'm hoping that the storms are gonna not knock out the power. They've been knocking out the power a few times tonight, so I'm really hoping it's gonna stay on just long enough for me to get this done and get this stream out here. So fingers crossed, right? So what are we gonna be doing today? Well, today what we're gonna be doing is some Swift scripting. Now, I use the Swift programming language a lot, except I don't use it for scripting. And I thought, well, why not? You know, beats bash scripting. And so why would I want to do that? Well, let me run through what I got here quickly, right? Whenever I create a new project in Xcode, which for those of you who don't know, Xcode is for making iOS applications, Mac applications, and that kind of thing, right? Well, anyway, so it makes a default folder structure, which I don't like. So I always end up having to create folders and then putting the files in there and everything else. And I have to do this every time I make a project. So I thought to myself, there's got to be a better way to do this. So I thought, okay, perfect excuse to use some Swift script in here and learn how to do that. Hopefully, I know Swift, so hopefully it's going to be the same thing with maybe just a few changes. Give me 1 second. I'm just checking something here. All right, so you probably hear a few booms of thunder and that in the background. Like I say, if I suddenly disappear, it's because the power went out, unless it's the end of the stream, in which case I'm going to tell you. Right, so getting back to this. So if you look at an example of what I do here, right, in my projects here in Xcode, you've got the top level for the project, and then there's the source code folder here. And in there, I like to create one for the assets where I put the assets. And then there's one for the view controllers. This is a Swift UI application. Sorry, this will eventually be a Swift UI application. So I've got one at the moment for the view controllers, and then I'll end up with another one for the views. The application delegate goes in there, resources, data models, that kind of thing. I usually call that models, and then sort of a miscellaneous for anything else, so that I end up with this sort of nice, clean folder structure, and I can find what I'm looking for. So that's what we're going for here. So I've got this application here just so I can copy this folder structure. Now, let me go over to the terminal here, and I'm in this Swift scripts folder. That's difficult to say. I haven't even been drinking. And what it's going to do is I need to start out, I want to start with the basics, right? So I'm going to create these folders. You can see I've already run this here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get rid of these new folders. It's probably going to fail on one of them because it's actually, so I'm going to use the dangerous command here because they are folders. So rm-rf, don't ever do that on your anything important like the main hard drive. You're going to trash the entire machine. Just saying. Right, so there we go. So we're back to where we started. So this script here, this test.swift, that's this script here. So I've been playing around with this a little bit because I didn't want to have something that wasn't working when we started the stream. So what I'm going to show you here is what I've got, right? So we've got a standard thing here at the top of the script, which if anyone's ever done any bash scripting or anything like that from the terminal will be familiar. I'm just pointing it to the environment and saying it's going to be a Swift script, right? And then from here on out, it's Swift. So I import foundation just like you would do in Swift application, things like that. I'm using the comprint command to just say, hey, I'm starting to create the folder structures. And then I've got an instance here, a constant that I've set up called file manager, which is going to give me an instance of the file manager class. Okay. And then I create a constant here, which is current directory. Just so you know, a constant in Swift, in case you don't, you use let to say this is a variable, it's not going to change. And if you are going to do that, the recommendation is to have a variable that's just cast in stone using a constant, or in this case the let, right? So I'm just going to say, okay, it's going to be the file manager. The current directory is going to be using the file manager to get the current directory path, right? So if I just do a pwd in the terminal here, which is put working directory, it's this, right? So that's where I'm at the moment. So that value is going to get put in current directory. All right. Hopefully this is all making sense so far. So with that, I then create an array where I'm going to put all of my folder names, all the ones that I'm going to use here, right? So I've got those in a nice little array, and then I'm going to do a loop. And this loop is going to say, all right, for each of the items in this folder, I want you to do this thing. Now, the reason we say I want you to do this thing is the file manager create directory that we're going to call here throws. Now, what that means is it can throw an error. So we've got to do something to catch and handle that error, right? So we're going to say, look, do this, try and do this, right? So do this thing, try and use the file manager that I created up here. There's a function on there called create directory, and you're going to give it some properties. So I'm going to say at this path, which in Swift, you have to escape in this string, right? Because it's expecting a string here, as you can see in these quotation marks. You know, if you have any questions, ask in the chat and I will do my best to answer them. So we need to escape like you would in Swift, you know, where we use this you know, structure here. And then we put in the variable name, current directory. Well, the current directory, as we know, is going to be this one here, right? But obviously I want to create new folders here. So what I do is I then put a / and then the folder, and the folder variable here is going to get the value from up here, right? So the first time through, for example, let's talk through this. The first time through, folder's going to be assets. So it's going to be, you know, this path / assets, right? And then on the next path, it's this path / views and so on until there's none left to work through, and then it's just going to stop, right? And then finally, there's this argument here with intermediate directories set to true. It's a Boolean, so it's true or it's false. And what that's asking is, hey, if you put something like, and let me add one here to show you, right? So if I put new folder / new folder B, so they're nested folders, right? At this level here, I want to create a new folder called new folder, and inside that one I want to create one called new folder B. Well, the only way I can get it to do that is to set with intermediate directories to true, because what that's saying is, you know, to get to this one you need to create this one first so that this one can be inside it. And that by setting that true, that's saying go ahead and do that, right? If it was false, it's going to foul, it's going to throw an error because it can't create that one inside there because this one doesn't exist. So hopefully that makes sense, right? So, you know, with that, that's that setup there. And then finally, like I say, at the end here, we have to put a provision in to catch any errors. So I've just got this catch here that's just going to print to the terminal error thrown trying to create folders. All right. So I'm going to leave this script as it is, right? Actually, I'm going to save it. And so we've got the script here, right? Let's clear that out and start again. So now I'm going to run this script. And when I run this script, what we should end up with are these folders if everything goes according to plan. So I'm going to run it from here. Just going to do / and then test.swift is the file name. It's going to know it's going to have to, this is essentially the same as me typing Swift followed by test.swift. It knows it's Swift because of up here. So we're just going to run this. It's not going to take long at all. Boom, there you go. So if you notice, first of all, there's my print statement, creating the folder structure. We got to the end of the script because we're back here at the terminal. And if you look up here in Sublime Text, look, it created these folders, right? Nothing in them, right? Except new folder has something in there. It's got new folder B because that's what we wanted, all right? Now, I'm going to show you here on the terminal as well, just so you can see it. Look, there's the folders, okay? And if we go inside new folder, there's the new folder B. So it's done exactly what we wanted. It created those folders. Now, that's as far as I've got before I started streaming here. So we're going to take it from here. And I'm just curious, if I do the same thing again, it's creating the same folder structure. And what I'm wondering is if I put something inside assets, so let's just touch a file. To create a new file in the terminal, you just use the word touch. And I'm just going to say test.txt. So there's now a file in there. You know, again, you can see that file appears up here in Sublime Text. There's no text in there, right? There's no content if I show it to you, but it's there, okay? And I'm just wondering if let's say I accidentally ran this again, right? So let's do this. And what I was curious about was if it overwrites, and it looks like it doesn't. So I'm feeling pretty good about that, actually. I'm somewhat relieved. I was expecting it to either fail and say, hey, these folders already exist, or for it to wipe out any content. So if I had like been working for months on an application and, you know, I had bunches of files in there and everything else, and I accidentally run this script, I don't want it to just kill off, trash, delete all my work. That would just be, you know, a complete nightmare. Yeah, right? So that's exactly what would happen. So we don't want that to happen. Because, you know, if we got that, then, I mean, that's a total foul. And we do not want a total foul, right? You know, what we're looking for every time when we do this is a win. We want to win. That's what we're looking for. So this is good. This is actually a good place to start. So let's go back to our script, right? And let's look at the folders that I'm actually creating here. So I need the assets folder, right? I need a views folder. I need a MISC folder. I don't need this one because this one was just an example for all of you on the stream. Now, I do need a view controllers, although, you know, it's arguably you may not need that on a Swift UI application, but I still use, you know, conventional Swift with storyboards and everything else, so conventional views. So for now, it's going to stay. Now, I've actually started adopting the MVVM, the model view model pattern. So I'm actually going to have another folder called view models, right? And then, let me think. I also need, there's another one over here, the application delegate, because I like to put that in there. Although, again, on a Swift UI application, it's slightly different, but we're going to leave it alone for now, because this is kind of a delegate. There you go. Not a deletegate. A deletegate sounds good, but it doesn't exist. So that's the application delegate. All right. What else do we need? So we need a resources folder. That could be anything, right? That's kind of where I put stuff in there too. The test folders and everything else get created for me. I'm trying to think what else I need. I think that's pretty good actually for right now, because what I want to do is I want to actually create a new application and try it. So I'm actually going to close that one there, and we're going to try this script on a real project now and see what happens. So I'm going to close that. All right, save that, and then I'm going to go back to Xcode, and I'm going to say, all right, let's create a new project, and you're going to see exactly what I'm talking about here. It looks nothing like this when we first create it. And I'm just going to call it test app. I'm going to use Swift. We'll leave it at storyboards for now, because that is still by far the most common. I'm not going to include the test for now. I don't care about that for this. All right, I'm going to put it on our repositories. No, let's just put this on the desktop. Why not, right? We're just going to put this on a folder on the desktop. You'll see it appear in the corner. There it is, test app. So it's created the test app for me here. Let's just set that to some iPhone simulator. It doesn't matter. We're not actually going to run this app right now. But what I want to do is, you can see, look, when I create a new application, this is the folder structure you get. Basically nothing. And so once you start piling in all your files, you can imagine that's just going to get to be a complete nightmare, right? So on the terminal now, I've got my test.swift. Now, at the moment, it only exists in one place, which is a problem, right? I can only run it there. So what I'm actually going to do, since I'm still working on this, is let's get rid of this text file. Let's close the test.swift. I'm actually going to close Sublime Text for a minute. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to copy this file to the desktop, because I don't want to, eventually it's going to exist somewhere on my system where I can run it anywhere, but I don't want to do that right now. I want to get everything set up and working and running before I do that. And also for the sake of the stream, I'm going to mess it around and everything else. So I'm just going to copy it to my user folder under the desktop, and then under my test app, right? Okay, and now I'm going to change to that folder. There you go. So you can see we've got these files over here, and we've got the Swift file. Now, if I go into test app, you're going to see that's where the app delegate and everything else exists. So actually that's where the script should be, right? So we're going to move it. We're just going to move test.swift under the test app. Great. Okay. Brilliant. So it's now here. We should be able to run it here and see the folders get created. Again, at the moment, the folder structure on the machine and the group structure here in Xcode, you know, there isn't one. Basically, they match because they're all just dumped in one place. So what I'm going to do now is I'm now going to run the test.swift. Oh, you know what? Yep. Hang on, let's open up Sublime Text. Okay, because there is actually an error here in the script. There you go. Didn't eliminate that there in the array. All right, let's do it again. So I guess we could say that that's kind of a, you know, yeah, all right. So let's run the script. All right, boom. It created our folder structure. We're going to see it here in the terminal. We see it up here in Sublime Text. But because of the way the groups work in Xcode, we don't see it here. Now, what I'm wondering, and this is kind of where things start to get a little interesting, because we now have this folder structure on the file system for the OS, right? But we don't have it here in Xcode, which is really what I want it to be. So that's kind of where I'm at now for the next phase, is figuring out, okay, you know, I thought that Xcode now reflected, this is Xcode 11.5.1, whichever the latest version is. I thought it reflected the structure automatically on the file system, but I guess it doesn't. So I don't really want to have to go through and create all these new groups here, and that's one of the things I was curious about. So I gotta research this a little bit now and figure out, okay, I got what I want here on the file system, but I need to be reflected up here in Xcode as well. And I'll just make sure that if I just clean everything out and do a build, it's not going to make any difference for build, I'm sure, but just want to make sure nothing's broken. Okay, so I now need it to be reflected here, because if I look in the Finder under Test App, you know, here's all my new folders, right? So they should just, I want them to appear in Xcode as well. So that's where I'm at here, and I'm sort of now looking at that section in it. So I can create a new group without a folder, but in fact what I really want is the opposite. I want it to look at the folders and say, oh, okay, I need to create groups for those. Otherwise, it's just not helping me. Location relative to group. Relative to project, we'll leave that at that. I think that just opens it up in the Finder, right? Yeah. There's got to be a way to automate this part of it as well. So we're going to go to the good old trusty here. Let's bring up Safari. And we are going to Google that sucker. How can get Xcode to create groups based on folders on the file system. This is probably a really bad way to search for this. Create a new group, its own folder. Boy, some of these are quite old too. Maybe if I do this the other way around, hang on. Let's think about this, because you can have it import. So if I take those folders that I've created, and this is not the best way to do this. I don't want this to be the way to do this at all. But if I take those, drag them off into there, add folders, create the groups. Interesting. Let's keep this open. I wonder if this is gonna do me for, at least right now these are all empty. If I put the application delegate in the app delegate folder, is it reflected on the OS? Yeah, it is. So it's working, and that works right. But this is a step I should not have to do. I need to automate. So what I need to do is I need to now automate adding these folders to automate the import of folders into Xcode. Right, that's what I need to do here. Because doing it this way every time, I mean, it gets me there. It saves me having to go right click, new group, blah, blah, blah. But, I mean, it's not perfect, right? But it does get me sort of where I need to be, because I can do that with the same end result. And then eventually I move the info.plist into the MISC as well. To do that, that's going to break your application actually. So what you have to do is you have to then change the location for it. Let me show you how you do that. So if I move the info plist under MISC there and try to build, it's going to fail horribly. Well, it should do anyway. Yeah, there you go. Because now it's going to say, well, wait a minute. I knew where I thought I was going to find the info.plist, but it ain't there now, buddy. So it's looking for it in the main folder still. And the reason being, if I go back over here, I think it's build settings. And if I search for the info.plist, I may not even have to go any further. Yeah. See here, the packaging info plist file, it's telling it it's there. Well, of course, it's not there anymore. So we have to manually change this. And I have to put MISC. Now, as soon as I do that, that's going to fix the problem, right? Or it should. There you go. Yeah, because now it knows to find it under here. So just be aware, when you change that info plist, when you move that, you have got to change a build configuration on that as well. All right. So, sorry, build setting, I should say, not configuration. Even though it's sort of the same thing, but anyway. So now it knows where to find that. Okay. Well, this is still a better place. It's not perfect, because what I want to do now is, the next step is I'm going to run it here. I want to create these folders. I want to find those files that get created every time. And I want to move them under those folders, which is also going to break my application project in Xcode. So I got to think about this. We may end up having to possibly incorporate another tool here, like maybe Xcode Gen or something that creates a project file for you. But you know, this is not bad for let's see, what, maybe 20 minutes work, something like that. So it's not too bad. 20-30 minutes, something like that. I've got to a much happier place than I was before I had the script. And actually, I'm quite pleased with Swift scripting as far as being able to just set things up like this. So I got to think about the next phase here, and what I'm gonna do. So I'm just gonna mute myself here for a minute. Just gonna have a drink. All right, that's better. Water, hydrate. Okay, so do I leave it there for now and come back to this, or do I keep going? That's always going to be the question. Let's look up the Swift File Manager. Yep, go to the Apple documentation. It's always a good place to start. And what I'm looking for now, then, you'll see in here, this is where you get some of that stuff that I've got here, like current directory path. That's in here somewhere. You can call one to get the home directory for the current user. You know, all those kind of things. So these are nice and convenient ways to build up that that folder structure that you need, the location for the actual files on the file system. And I think there should be some for files as well. Creating and deleting items. There's the create directory that we used. Sorry, this one here, add path. This is where you can delete items, create files. So there should also be something to move a file as well, right? Trash. Here we go, moving and copying items. So you just move it from A to B. Okay, so that's cool. So I tell you what we're going to do. Let's actually go backwards. Let's put these files back where they were. I'm going to leave the info P list for now. But let's go back and put all these other ones where we had them. All right. So I got a feeling that Xcode's probably going to get badly out of sync here, at least until we get the grouping updating working. But let's go back to the script. So after we've created the folders, right, I think we've got to have another print statement here so we know what's going on the terminal. So this one's going to say, you know, folder structure created. And then let's have another one that says relocate, moving files into position, into folders, just to make it real clear. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to let files is going to be an array. Most of this is going to be the same as what we've got up here, but we're going to use the moving here of the items, the files themselves, rather than the folders. So let's just try it with one for now. So let's try the assets, right? So the first one we know is going to be assets.xc assets. And then we'll say, okay, for file, in files. So for each file in the array called files, we want to do this thing, right? So let's do the thing. But before we do that, let's put the catch to make sure that we don't forget it. And we're just going to say, in case something bad happens, error trying to move files, move a file to a folder. So we know that something bad happened. That's all that taken care of. All right. You know, we should fix the indentation there as well. That's better. Okay. So now we're going to say, all right, try file manager. Reference to our file manager. We want to, going to go with this one, move item here. So we're going to move item, and it's going to expect the current location to the new one. Okay, so Move at and to. Okay. So the at is actually going to be easy here. It's for this loop because they're all going to be the same. So at the current directory, which is the location, especially if you spell it right, current directory is the location of the project, right? Now, depending on which one it is, though, we need to move it to a different folder. So we're going to get a little creative here. And we can do this one of two ways. We can do this kind of what I think is going to be a bad implementation way, which is going to be to say, all right, grab each of these here. The order of the folders and the order of the files will be the same. So, for example, to move the assets file, right, we're going to grab this folder here. That's one way we could do it. But the problem there is if you add folders and you don't have files to put them in, like, for example, we don't have any view models right now, things are going to get horribly out of sync. So we're going to do this the kind of the long, verbose way at first, I think. So we're going to move it to... Firstly, we're going to start with the current directory again, right? And now, just to make sure this works for the first file, I'm actually going to hard code in here assets and hope for the best. So these should be strings. Let's encapsulate them. Quotation marks. So we're just going to hard code this first one to make sure that assets does go into the assets folder, and then we'll automate this part as well. So I'm going to save the script. I'm just going to run it because we've learned that nothing gets affected here, nothing gets wiped out when we rebuild the folders, so we should be good, right? So let's try it. Let's keep an eye out here. Our application delegate folder is empty. There's our application delegate right there. I'll highlight it. So just keep an eye on that as we run the script. And we got an error. All right, try for, oh. Yeah. It does help to separate the arguments, doesn't it? Kind of a newbie mistake there, right? That's a complete foul right there. All right, let's try it again. Fingers crossed that I didn't do another stupid newbie mistake. Cannot convert value of type string to expected argument type URL. Oh, oh my goodness, Peter. Okay, at path. Otherwise, it thinks I'm trying to use the one for the URL. Let's skip the trombone. Okay. Is not a postfix unary operator. Use one result to identify assets. What do we got here? Got the assets folder. Oh, Peter. Boom. Let's get it right. There we go. Almost. Hang on. File was never used. Consider replacing with an underscore. Yep. Okay, we'll get there. Error. There was an error trying to move it. Okay. Wonder what happened. Let's look here. What did I get wrong? File. For the file. Move item at... Oh. Yeah. All right. So actually what we need here is a slash. I completely forgot to put in the file name. Somebody somewhere's watching this going like, what an idiot. So this is going to be file. And then we're going to move it. Let's get this back on the screen. We're going to move it to there. Not sure if I have to put the same file name or not. Let's put it in anyway and find out, right? Because on the terminal, when you move something, you actually have the ability to rename the file as you move it. So I'm assuming it's going to be the same, but that is an assumption. And I don't think I want that one there, do I? No. Okay, let's try it again. Let's check our files. Yep. All right. Here we go. Oh, something happened. There it is. Assets got moved out of here into the folder. Awesome. But what does Xcode think happened? See, Xcode's going to think that the assets are there still. There's got to be a way to tell Xcode to just update itself. That's going to be it's going to be a weird part, right? Going to have to figure that out. Okay, so we've got everything we wanted here, at least as far as the file system's concerned. I just need to build out the array of files and the array of locations that they're going to go to. So once I've done that, that's going to fix everything up in the file system here. I could even script in, I guess, the editing of the build settings eventually as well to update the location of the info.p list. That takes care of that one. Oh, cool. Look, notice at least Xcode's recognizing that file is not there anymore. I probably have to relocate it somehow, right? Location, the full path, test out. Okay. So if I do this, it probably fixes the problem, right? Yeah. That's what I need Xcode to understand, is I need my script to tell Xcode, fix that stuff, right? That's what I got to work out next. I think maybe that's what I'll be doing the next session. Yeah, I'm going to have to do some homework on that. Yeah. I'm going to take a quick drink here. All right. Yeah, that's better. Okay. Talking code dries you out, I tell you. Gotta have water handy. And it's still raining outside too, just so you know. But the storm has not let the power go out yet, so I think I'm getting lucky. What'll happen is I'll finish the coding, I'll finish the stream, I'll start playing some games. That's when the power's going to go out, because that's the cruelty of life, right? Okay, let's look here. So that takes care of the assets. The app delegate needs to go into the app delegate. So let's go ahead and add this one here. This one is the app delegate. Swift file. See, right now, if I run it, what's going to happen is it's going to put it in the assets folder. So that's now why we need to automate that section as well. But let's just keep listing for the files for now. I'm not actually going to run this. And then we also have the view controller. And then we have the scene delegate as well. I mean, really, I guess application delegate. I could call it delegates and put the scene delegate in there if I wanted to. Okay. Still not sure if I should reuse this array up here or just create a new one for the destinations. It makes more sense to reuse the existing one, but I've got to make sure that these match up somehow, right? For example, look, right, the next one here is views. Well, app delegate is the second one here. We don't want that going in the views, right? Really don't know what I mean, it just makes more sense to reuse the folders that I've already got in that array. I don't know. If anyone has an opinion, please feel free to share it in chat or let me know. All right, I think I'm going to have to play safe here, because I think the weather's kind of starting to mess with the power again a little bit, and I don't want this to just die, or the stream to die on me and just cut off. So I think what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to play safe right now, and we'll probably have to work towards finishing up the stream here and pick this up next time. So just to recap, what we still need to do is we need to have a dynamic setting of the folders for each of these files. Got to figure out a way to relate this array to that array, or whether to use a separate one, what to do there. The good news is it's only going to run for the files here. So one way I could do this, now that I'm thinking about it, if anything that has a file listed here, as long as I make sure they're the first one in the folders array, like the first part of the list, and say like view models, which is an empty one, goes at the bottom, that's not going to run because there won't be a matching file. Maybe that's a way to go. It's very risky using indexes like that though, because you just, it's such a code smell to it, right? There's just something about it, but it would work for the script. And arguably this is a controlled environment, right? I know what the files are going to be unless Xcode's project generator suddenly rapidly changes, in which case I'm going to update my script anyway. But, this is very much a starting script, and I'm pretty pleased with the way it's going so far. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to leave it there for now. Next time around, I'm going to pick up here where we leaves off, right? I'm not going to do something without you seeing it. If with that, if you're interested in Swift at all, please check out one of my websites, compileswift.com. There's a whole bunch of Swift related material there, tutorials, tips, videos, you name it, right? That's my home as far as Swift goes, compileswift.com. And if you're just interested in providing feedback on the stream or anything here, or have questions or anything like that, you can reach out to me on Twitter. You can go to @UIBuzz, UIBUZZ. I'm going to put that up on the screen here for you, right? So there you go. So you can reach out to me and follow me on Twitter @UIBuzz. With that, we'll leave it here. We'll pick this script up, I think, same time next Friday. That's 11 p.m. US Central Time next Friday. So take care, everybody. Have a great weekend, and I will speak to you again soon.